Welcome back, heroes. This is Christian, back again with another video just for all of you guys. I've had so many of you guys asking me throughout the months, throughout the years, in messages, DMs, comments, or in person, is it worth it to upgrade a Super WRX into an STI? Now, if you guys know, I was very notorious for having a Super WRX on my channel for multiple years until I upgraded to an STI. I have lots of experience, but if you guys like the video, hit the like button, follow the journey, hit the subscribe button. Like I always keep saying, guys, in the comments below, let me know what content you guys want to see from me moving forward. As you guys might remember, I made this video a few years ago talking about why I chose to buy a Super WRX over an STI. I've also made plenty of videos talking about why you should buy a STI over WRX. I've made videos talking about my 1-year reviews, multiple year reviews of having 400 horsepower. I've had a bunch of performance videos, POV videos, and comparison videos of the two where I really break down my initial impressions, my overall impressions of different modifications, and how I feel about the platforms of the Super WRX and the STI. And this video is going to be able to really showcase all those videos in one and tell you my thoughts. So anyway, when it comes to upgrading your Super WRX into an STI, the first thing everyone always goes to is the price, is the cost. You know, before it was about $7,000 to $8,000 difference in the getting into an STI over a WRX. Now, obviously, the 2022 model only has a Super WRX, so we're talking about the previous generations. So in this video, we're only talking about the Subaru WRX STI Raptor model years STIs and the predecessors of that model. Since there are no STIs, the STI values of the used market have gone much more higher than the WRX. But overall, you can still have about the same kind of just change and difference in price, about $7,000 to $8,000 depending on mileage, obviously, and model. Now, I truly believe that when it comes to is it worth it to upgrade your WRX to an STI, I think a lot of times we simply compare those two cars instead of comparing the overall market. So when it comes to these cars, yes, you can get into an STI for 30-something thousand. Yes, you can get into it for about 40-something thousand right now. But when it comes to the overall market and what you need to do to get your STI up to par to other cars, other manufacturers, other sports cars, the price it costs of that, the maintenance of that, and overall everything that encompasses upgrading to an STI, I think this review is the one that is the true one that you guys are all going to want to hear. The biggest thing that I really want to start with when it comes to this upgrade is what are you truly going to be using your Subaru for? I get it. A lot of people are talking about the transmission is much stronger in the STI. It's much more beefier. It can handle much better. It's a lot more fun. Yes, I've had the STI. I will definitely say it is so much better than the sluggish WRX. It is so much better. The manual gearbox, just everything about it, the feel, how quick it is, how sharp it is. Just the way the car handles, especially with the clutch and the transmission, is night and day, so much more better than the WRX. But that does not necessarily mean that you need it, right? I think the biggest thing when it comes to the STI is a lot of people focus on simply the name of you have an STI. Hey, I have an STI, I have an STI, so I'm better. The problem to me when it comes to this question is, like I said before, what are you using it for? You know, a lot of STI owners or WRX owners that I have found and met, I would say about over 90% of them just use it as a daily driver or a fun car just to kind of drive around the street. But you're not really pushing it. You're not really driving it for performance. You're not taking it to the track. You're not competing in rallycross. You're not competing in hill climb events. You're not competing in autocross with it. You might do one track event with it, but that's about it. So when it comes to, you know, the differentials and the LSD, other components that really make the STI that much better of a performing car in terms of performance, a lot of people aren't using it for performance. They're using it for comfort. They're using it for enjoyment, right? And so this is where the STI doesn't make a lot of sense to me, only because I've had, the gas is horrible. I have a 700, let's just say 700 plus something horsepower track fully built Corvette, and it gets better gas mileage than my STI with no tune, no mods, nothing on it. Like it's pretty remarkable how bad this STI in the current marketplace is, especially with how much gas is. The price you're paying to have an STI, the gas is even worse in the STI than it is in trucks, in big trucks. Like I have an F-250 and I'm getting almost better gas mileage in that car around the city than I did in my STI. Now, as you guys can see in the clip right here, you know, I'm showcasing this is an STI. Now, again, the shifter, the point, the shifting, the transmission is much better. The feel is much better. When you're in an STI, the steering is much better. Just everything about it. The driver feel is much better. Now, don't get me wrong. So, when it comes to which one is better, the STI is better. But my issue when it comes to the STI is there's so many other cars that you can get much more power out of, that gives you just as good of a feel, and you can have much more flexibility in what you want to do. When it comes to an STI, you just have to truly want a sedan, a 4-cylinder, a turbo, and an all-wheel drive. Now, if we're talking about like a cold climate, if you're in a place where you just absolutely need all-wheel drive, you know, you're in the mountains, you like to go snowboarding, or you're somewhere where it's constantly raining, constantly the weather is not in ideal situations, then I understand it. But this whole all-wheel drive, you know, getting this kind of car, it's definitely a niche market, but overall there's so many better options. I mean, for this price point, you can get into a really nice Mustang GT Performance Pack, you can get into a nice Camaro SS1LE, got so many other cars that you can get into for the price point. So when it comes to is it worth it, the second thing for me is with the STI, it just costs so much to have to make sure it's fine, right? Like I got to get the Killer Bee oil pan, I had to get the cylinder 4 cooling mod, I had to make sure I got a new radiator, I had to make sure I got this, I had to make sure I got that. You know, there's so many little things that you're just constantly having to make sure it just doesn't completely fall apart in the STI. While as in the WRX, it's the F8 platform is a much easier platform to just drive. Put E85 in it, and you're literally good. Like, you know, anything under 400, you know you're fine. But with the STI, it's a lot harder to get power out of these cars. You really have to upgrade the turbos. You really have to do a whole bunch of things. And obviously, once you get over that 400 horsepower level, it's pretty much the same. Like it's kind of funny that the WRX and the STI, even though one is 8,000 more and supposedly has a much stronger block, it's supposed to handle so much more power, but it really doesn't. Now, granted, I had a 21 STI that you guys are seeing on the screen right now. As far as that, it came with the RA block, so obviously it can handle more power. But for the most part, these STIs, you know, if you didn't get that, if you're just in a whatever block, you know you're gonna have to do a block build at some point. You know you're gonna have to do so much stuff just to get to 400, just to get to 450, just to get to 500. I get it, it's an all-wheel drive, but if you're going straight and you're not doing turns, if you're not performing, it's a waste. It's heavier than rear-wheel drive cars. You make less power, and for the most part, I don't think it's worth it to get an STI unless you're truly going to be using it in a way. Like when I got this STI, you know, I love Subarus. I was a big fan of Subarus. That's all I've known, right? Like I've had Corvettes and Subarus. I've had Corvettes and Subarus. I've had Corvettes and Subarus. Then obviously you guys have known that I went and got my Honda Civic Type R, and I'll get into that in another video where I really compare the Type R experience to the STI experience, or Corvette experience to the other experience, or my other buddies' Camaro experience to this Subaru STI experience. And I just have to say, you know, the more I got out and really kind of understood and drove other cars, the more you really looked at the STI as a really inferior product or an inferior car. Yes, obviously you can put money into an STI to make it an absolute crazy machine, but it costs so much to get it to a level of competency where other cars come out the box that way. My other beef with the STI overall, it's the materials. You know, I mean, you're getting literally the exact same interior as a WRX. You're getting literally the exact same. Everything's pretty much the same, other than obviously the transmission. I get it, a few things are different, but the interior isn't really that nice of an interior. As you see, I've had to do a whole bunch of upgrades to really kind of add to the interior, kind of really add to make it that much more nice. But in stock form, these interiors are definitely outdated. The interiors definitely need a lot of work, and considering this is a $40-something thousand car, you know, you can get much better. Again, this is not a beef against me with Subaru. I know how you guys think everything I say now is talking down on Subaru, especially with all that's been coming out with Subaru lately. But this is just my honest opinion as far as, is it worth it? Now, I would suggest, if you're going to go the Subaru route and if you're going to go an STI route, I actually think that I probably would have gotten an older Subaru STI, probably because they're much lighter. You know, these newer Subarus are much heavier. They do handle a little bit better in terms of like some of the newer tech, but since you're going to be swapping out most of the tech in those cars anyway, you know, it's harder to shed weight than to add components, right? So I think the older model STIs are really the way to go. Overall, I would say it's only worth it to upgrade to an STI if you're actually going to be doing performance stuff with it. If you're not, it's more of just a name brand and just saying you have an STI. Again, I do a lot of performance driving, a lot of track driving, a lot of competitive style driving. So a lot of this is more of my experience with what you would be using this vehicle for. But overall, I do not believe that upgrading your WRX to an STI is the right choice if you're just doing it for looks, if you're just having it as a daily driver, if you're just doing it to do some mods here and there and kind of going from there. Anyway, if you guys like the video, hit the like button. If you want to follow the journey, hit the subscribe button. Like I always keep saying, guys, go after your dreams and make them reality. Have a great day, a blessed day.